Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Bundesliga show. We're back this evening for a bit of a shorter video on the back of doing our watch along yesterday, which obviously was very enjoyable. So welcome all for another slice of fantasy football. So we're looking ahead to match day 2, and this is just a 10 to 12 minute video of us kind of previewing and having a look at some of the kind of premium, mid-level and cheaper picks for each position, defender, midfielder and forward, with Bully News' own Rune Gurjuf. So Rune, welcome back as always. How are you doing this evening?
Thanks, very good, Rory.
Good stuff. Is it rather warm where you are then, yeah?
Yeah, I live in Denmark and it's much hotter than it usually is here. So nice with a bit of sun for a change.
Yeah. Well, I'm absolutely roasting in my kind of attic room, so to speak. So the commitment is there from both myself and Runa. So hopefully everyone that's tuning in appreciates the commitment levels that we're going to give you this fancy football kind of hints and tips, as obviously provided by Bully News, which obviously Runa is editor-in-chief of. So Bully News is your number one source of German football content, including daily news, rumours, like transfer rumours, fantasy Bundesliga, of course, what we're here for, long reads, top lists, and much, much more. So make sure you get yourself across to that and make the most of all the brilliant, obviously, daily articles that are coming out on Runa's site. So what did you make of the first weekend anyway, Runa? Any kind of shocks for you in terms of the kind of fantasy football points? Were there any kind of players that came out of nowhere to score highly?
Yeah. I think there was there were a few surprises. The biggest one probably being Sildilia from Freiburg, who was thrown in at right back with Lucas Kübler out, and I think he costs like just short of 4 million, and he ended up picking 17 points. So I kind of regretted going with Weiser, who cost just about the same instead of Sildilia, but he did much better than expected. And then, of course, Freiburg in general did very well with Grifo and Gregoritsch also picking up lots of points. And then Nkunku, of course, he was the highest scoring player. Musiala was also really a standout player.
Very good game.
It's kind of a shame that he's an attacker in the game this season, because if he were a midfielder, then we would probably have brought him in last week. But I guess he proved that even though he's a striker, he can still be worth picking up 22 points. So not a bad first week for him.
Good stuff. So we'll go straight into it, and straight away we'll pick up a question that's come into the comments. So we'll try and pick up as many as we can within the time that we've got this evening, because obviously we need to go through the picks as well. But straight away over to you, Runa. A question that's come in: would you remove Joram for Schick this match week? Maybe kind of looking ahead to some of your picks already that we've got later on, but that kind of fits in perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I would. I mean, I would pretty much do everything to get Schick into my team this week. But it depends who else you've got. I think Joram is still a very good option for the next 2 match days with Schalke and Hertha games coming up for Gladbach. So if Joram is the striker you want to sell, then he's worth selling for Schick. But in any case, just get Schick in your team.
Yeah, so that's the message, basically. Just get him in regardless. Whatever you have to do, shuffle it around. So thank you for that opening question. Very good one as well. So I hope whoever is tuning in tonight takes that advice on board and gets Patrick Schick in. So we'll dive straight into it, and we'll start with defenders. One thing to kind of note tonight, as we're kind of doing a shorter video, we're not really going to cover goalkeepers, as Runa's very kind of much alluded to a strategy in the draft show, which has gone down really well. Our numbers on that are fantastic, so I love that. Great to see the fantasy community joining forces on that. So no goalkeepers, so straight into defenders, and we split it up this season into kind of 3 different categories, Runa. So we've got our budget pick, our mid-price pick, and our premium. So do you want to talk us through the 3, or obviously the choice for each section then for the defenders?
Yeah, sure. The budget pick is Sildilia, who we talked about before. Lucas Kübler will miss out again, so he looks pretty nailed on to start against Borussia Dortmund this time. So of course it's a much more difficult fixture for Freiburg, but he costs 3.4 million and plays on Friday evening. So he gives you great flexibility because of that early standalone fixture, and with that price, I don't think you can really go wrong with him. So if you're looking to pick up a cheap one, then he's a good option. Proceeding to my mid-price pick, who is Christopher Lynch, because with Philip Kostic heading to Juventus, then Lynch looks likely to play this week, like he did in the Super Cup.
Did an okay job. Yeah,
he did. I mean, he's a more defensively oriented player than Kostic, obviously. But still, I mean, if he's playing as a wing back, which looks like he looks like he will, then he has a lot of potential, especially against Hertha. And he's owned by 0% at the moment, obviously because he's been behind Kostic in the pecking order. So maybe a good differential pick, I'd say, for a fair price. And my premium pick is Jeremy Frimpong for 11.1 million. And we know how much of a threat he can be going forward when he's on his game. And Leverkusen have a really good match this week against Augsburg at home. So I could really imagine that this would be a game where Frimpong would thrive. So yeah, a great pick this week.
Any slight concerns with regards to how Leverkusen have started the season, or do you reckon it's just a bit of a blip and they'll start to express themselves soon?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't looked good, but I think they did create the chances to score against Dortmund. Schick wasn't as effective as he usually is in front of goal because he missed several opportunities, and I'm sure playing against Augsburg at home with the way Augsburg played in their opener against Freiburg, I'm pretty sure Leverkusen will get some goals here.
Very good. Before we go on to midfielders quickly, another comment that's come in from Lucas. What are your estimates for Frankfurt coming up against Hertha since they played on Wednesday? Obviously, you've already put in Lens as a pick, so you're not opposed to putting in Frankfurt players, Rune?
No, not in principle. Of course, it might be the case of a few tired legs now that they played this game against Real Madrid, but you can also turn it around and say that maybe they, after that dropping against Bayern, then they actually, showed up against Real Madrid and put in a respectable performance. So maybe, despite losing the game, they might take some confidence from that performance. And also, I noticed that Glasner subbed off some of his important players pretty early in the game. The likes of Jesper Lindstrøm, for example, went off in the beginning of the second half. But of course, it's pretty hard to predict who will start because, for example, Boré, will he get the start again up front now that he's started 2 games in a row, or will Kolo Muani, for example, given the nod this time? So, there are some rotation risks, but Lens should be pretty nailed on to start now that Kostic is gone.
Very good. Yeah, very good question. So thank you very much for that. So moving on to our midfielders then, Rune. So we've got the same 3 categories, but again, just talk us through budget, mid-price, and premium.
Yeah, first pick is Leonardo Bittencourt. He's my budget pick in midfield, and I actually found it pretty difficult to find a lot of good budget options in midfield. I'd say Bittencourt is one of the very few cheap options worth considering below the 6 million mark. I think he had pretty strong start to the season with a goal and 11 points against Wolfsburg, and now he has a pretty good fixture coming up against Stuttgart. Sorry, Rory, but it's your boys. But I see it as a pretty even game, and Stuttgart are conceding a lot of goals in general. They rarely keep a clean sheet, so Bittencourt might be worth picking up if you're looking for a cheap option. Kevin Stöger is an alternative at around the same price, playing for Bochum, if you're looking for another option. And my mid-price pick is Christoph Baumgartner. Hoffenheim, obviously they lost the opener against Gladbach, but they made things really difficult for themselves because Posh was sent off so early in the game. And I think they look like a pretty good team to target this week. Facing Bochum at home, I think Bochum could really struggle this season. Not impressed by the transfer window at all. And Baumgartner is a proven fantasy asset, and he's owned by just 2%. So and my final pick, the premium one, is Jonas Huffman, who actually disappointed a bit in the first round. I mean, he was outscored by the likes of Joram and Player and also Neuhaus actually. But he still picked up 8 points, and I still think it's quite surprising that only 13% owns Hoffman at this point, because he's just so vital, so consistent. And with the games Gladbach have coming up, then he's almost a must-have.
And just signed a new contract as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, maybe that will give him a boost.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nothing like an extra few quids or euros in the bank to stir the performances. Brilliant stuff. So moving on to strikers then. So where the points are scored. So budget, mid-price, and premium pick last.
Yeah, and my budget pick in the striking department is Niklas Füllkrug, and I also found it quite difficult to find good cheap options up front this week actually. But I think Füllkrug's price is quite low compared to his potential. I think he looked fairly sharp in the opener. Also scored a pretty good goal against Wolfsburg and ended up picking 10 points. So I think he should have a lot of potential too against Stuttgart. Will probably not do too bad. And also Marvin Duksch, his partner in crime up front, is a bit more expensive, but I think they're both looking good if you're looking to save some money up front. And my mid-price pick is Alexander Player this week.
Sure.
And I suggested Marcus Thuram when I presented my draft team last week, and he didn't disappoint. But in terms of fantasy points, he was outscored by Player, who picked up 17 points, and I think he looked extremely good in the opener, and not just in terms of like getting good positions for finishes, but also in terms of setting up his teammates. And as I said before, Gladbach have 2 great fixtures coming up now. So if you want to differentiate yourself from the Joram owners, you could go for Player instead. And then my final pick, my premium one, is Patrick Schick. Probably the most obvious pick this week. 24 Bundesliga goals last season, and will be unleashed against an Augsburg side that lost 4-0 in their opener. So I think it's a no-brainer, and I need to find a way to get him into my team in some way. I also, just to mention a few other good premium picks this week, Andre Kramaric is a pretty good one too for Hoffenheim. He costs just about the same in the premium category, and his ownership is way lower than Schick's. And as we all know, Kramaric is so vital for Hoffenheim. He's like their attacking talisman. So if you want to go for a different option, or maybe you can pair him up with Schick if you have the money, I'd also say Kramaric is worth looking at.
Perfect stuff. So we've got a question that's coming from Gavin as well. So we'll get to this question as well for you, Gavin, as you've got it in just in time for Runa. So is it worth doubling up on buying assets up front? If so, which two, Musiala, Mane, Gnabry, would you go for? So what do you reckon, Runa, out of those 3?
Yeah, I mean, based on their performance against Frankfurt, then it's surely worth doubling up on them. I actually kind of regretted not going for Gnabry or Müller alongside Mane. I think Mane is pretty nailed on my team, at least, because I think he's most likely to start every game. I mean, when the Champions League returns and the DFB Pokal action comes in midweek 2, then the likes of Musiala and Gnabry are probably more likely to slide out of the team. But at this point, I mean, you lose some flexibility by doubling up on a team. That's obvious. But with the form Bayern showed in the opener, then I think a combination of Mane and Gnabry or Mane and Müller would work pretty well at this stage, at least, because I don't see much need for Nagelsmann to rotate right now. I mean, with Musiala, he's cheaper than the other two, but probably not as nailed on to start. And when Kingsley Coman returns from suspension, and Devezane, of course, also pushing for a start, there will be a lot of competition. So Mane and Gnabry, if I were to pick two of those three.
Very good. So there we go, guys. I think that'll probably have to be it for questions. So from the live show. But if you missed us live, of course, pop the question into the comment section on YouTube, and we will get in touch with Bruno, and he'll get over to YouTube and answer your questions for you. So yeah, brilliant show, very enjoyable one. But yeah, just a nice quick fire one, 15-16 minutes, just to kind of give you some great picks for your 5 transfers and match day 2. Hope everyone has a great weekend and enjoys the Bundesliga action. Of course, just a little bit of admin before we go. Make sure you head over to Twitter at @OverTheBarFB and @OverTheBarExtra and @Bully News, of course, as well, to find out all their articles coming out and all of our articles coming out. Over the Bar is obviously a website as well, so otbfootball.net. Go over there to check out all the website's main articles, and please do indeed like this video, comment on it post it being live now, and please do hit the subscribe button. It'd be brilliant to have have as many more people in our community that we keep on building show on show. So yeah, brilliant stuff. Runa, thanks very much for this evening. Appreciate your time, and thank you very much for everyone that's watched this evening. Really appreciate your tuning in, and wish you all the best with your fantasy football endeavors for the weekend coming up. So cheers for that, Runa.
Yeah, thanks.
And cheers, everyone. Good night.
Yeah, bye.